Hello there guys and welcome back to my channel for finally another video on my channel. And I know it's been a while again since Chelsea signed Hakim Ziyech, but I guess it is what it is. You know, I think most of you guys have got used to that by now. I don't know when I'm next going to upload a video, but if you're new here and you do enjoy my content, please subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. And also drop a like on this video. That'd be pretty sick as well. But let's just get into today's topic because, you know, the arguably most spoken about topic in recent weeks, in the last couple of weeks, I guess, surrounding Chelsea has certainly been this. Other than, you know, one other thing that's going on, which we can't talk about on YouTube because it's going to demonetize our videos. Also, the reason why the game against Bayern Munich is held without fans. So, you know, a little bit annoying that we can't talk about that without getting demonetized, because I would have spoken about that today if that wasn't the case. But, you know, this is the next best thing, if anything. You know, the second biggest topic surrounding Chelsea at the moment, because Mr. Billy Gilmour has certainly, you know, made waves. Has certainly made waves, that kid has. Now, of course, as I assume all of you know, Jorginho picked up his 10th booking of the season against Bournemouth and was then suspended for the 2 following Premier League games. He also picked up another booking against Bayern Munich in the first leg, meaning he is going to be suspended in the second leg against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. And that meant, all right, he's going to be out for 3 games in succession, suspended for 3 games in succession. Before those 3 games, we played Liverpool in the FA Cup. Jorginho, even though he was going to miss the next 3 games, wasn't in the starting 11. Billy Gilmour started. Billy Gilmour started and turned up with a man of the match performance. And then he made his first Premier League start on the weekend against Everton and turned out with another man of the match performance. I didn't actually think he was quite significantly the man of the match, but he was given a man of the match by the Premier League. So who am I to debate that? And now we're sat here, a lot of people, especially the ones that don't like Jorginho much, saying, oh, well, Billy Gilmour has that place, just solidified for himself now. Jorginho shouldn't get back into the side. And that is, I think, a different, interesting, talking point. Because should Jorginho get his place back once his suspension is over? You know, we play Aston Villa on the weekend. We play Bayern Munich in the Champions League in midweek. And after that, it's the Leicester game in the FA Cup. Does Jorginho come back into the side for that? Or should Frank Lampard stick with Billy Gilmour? Or, not necessarily for the one individual game, but just like for the rest of the season. Who is that regista? Even though if people will start hating me again for using that word, even though we don't have Sarri anymore, it's still kind of a regista once we play a 4-3-3 rather than a 4-2-3-1, let alone a 3-4-3, because that's just mind-boggling to me every single time. Now, we strongly have to presume at this point that Gilmour will stay in the side for the Aston Villa game and quite possibly for the Bayern Munich game as well. Of course, we don't know at this point how long Mateo Kovacic is going to be out for with the little Achilles problem that he picked up against Liverpool in the FA Cup. But presumably, he will have to be in the side again on the weekend, and then he will probably be in the side against Bayern as well, unless Lampard goes with a 3 at the back formation again and then a 2-man midfield. Unless that happens, I'm pretty sure Billy Gilmour will have to start. And now just quickly on Billy Gilmour, he's quicker, he's more elegant on the ball, and has a bit of a slight more of a drive to just go forward than Jorginho does. But Jorginho is still more disciplined with his positioning, much more disciplined, and with, intercepting passing lanes. He's better at reading the game, he's better at controlling the tempo and both dictating teammates and play, and those are very, very important things, especially when games become difficult. And I say he's better at that when games become difficult, to be honest, more so than that. It's Gilmour just hasn't been tested at that level as hasn't been tested in a game that's gotten really, really difficult for us, because the 2 games he was in now, we kind of dominated both Liverpool and Everton. Liverpool, they had some chances, but only really in the first half. And other than that, we absolutely dominated them. And then, of course, he played in the Carabao Cup against Manchester United earlier in the season. Well, he was good, but not like as outstanding as he was in the last 2 games, in my opinion anyways. I mean, generally, it's difficult to compare the 2 because of how young Billy Gilmour is and how little we've seen of him at the very highest level. But when I do see him play, there is a lot of what Jorginho does in his game, and it's brilliant. Just less developed, of course, because he's so young. But Gilmour does have these other abilities that Jorginho just will never have. The pace, the dribbling, the elegance when moving forward with the ball. Because Jorginho looks elegant when he's like moving around and passing. But once he starts running, because of how slow he is and because he seems unsure, not unsure is maybe the wrong word, but he knows of himself that he's slow, so he doesn't really want to go into the dribble, even though he's a good dribbler. But he's slow, so it makes it difficult for him. So Billy Gilmour has a lot of these things over him. But of course, there is a lack of experience there. As much as, he was brilliant against Liverpool and Everton, we just don't know for a fact whether he can replicate that kind of performance every single game. It's unlikely, because very few players can replicate such good performances on a weekly basis, on a 2 weekly basis, not 2 weekly basis, twice a week basically. So that's difficult to judge. And Jorginho certainly still has things over him. Also leadership. Leadership is in there. An 18-year-old can't possess the kind of leadership that Jorginho certainly does have in his game. Of course, we have Azpilicueta, we have also Rudiger to some extent that are leaders in the team, but I think Jorginho, alongside Aspi, is by far our biggest leader in the side, and that is a big part of what's important. But to talk about what happens after the suspension against Leicester, now for me personally, presuming by then Billy Gilmour will have started 4 games in a row, Liverpool, Everton, Villa, and then the midweek game in Munich against Bayern. I think, considering he's only 18 years of age, it probably wouldn't do him badly to get a little rest against Leicester, and then Jorginho starts that one. And then we judge from Jorginho's performance against Leicester who plays the game after, basically. That's how I personally would do it. But that's like an easy cop-out for me now. That's an easy cop-out. Just wait for how Jorginho plays when he next plays, and then we can decide who gets the place. That's a bit easy. Now, in my ideal lineup with the players that we currently have, in my favourite 4-3-3 formation, there is 2 absolute guaranteed starters in that team. One, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, assuming and hoping that he can come back, as good and better from that horrible injury he suffered, and he seems to be very, very close to returning to first team football. Of course, he's been on the bench a couple of times for Chelsea and also played a full 90 minutes for the under-23 side, which is brilliant. So him as being one of the guaranteed starters for me personally, and the other one is Mateo Kovacic. Not N'Golo Kante, not Jorginho, not anyone else. Ruben Loftus-Cheek and Mateo Kovacic, in my opinion, are the guaranteed starters against most teams. Because against the very, very top teams, I think N'Golo Kante should start. But against others, I think that's our best way to go. I don't think Kante in the team, is necessary, and if anything, harms our attacking play. So I'd much rather have Ruben and Kovacic, as part of a midfield 3. But then it's just about who you have behind them. Because when you have 2 proper number 8s, and not like a defensive absolute monster like N'Golo Kante is, you need a very disciplined player behind the 2 number 8s that will hold this position, except when the opponent is literally only sitting back. Then, of course, also move forward. And if Billy Gilmour, and I'm sure he can, is able to bring that discipline into his game, I think on the long term and into next season, if Jorginho even stays, over the summer, I think Billy has the edge over Jorginho. I have to be honest like that. But then I see Billy against, I think it was Everton, when in one moment he just pushed up the pitch and then ended up on the right wing because of just movement of the players, and no one was filling that gap for him. No one filled that gap, and then Everton hit us on a break, and they were literally just running against our defenders. And obviously we have attacking fullbacks, so they were literally running against 2.5 players because Aspi stayed a bit deeper. And we can't afford that, especially against certain teams. And Everton had a bad day, and we were lucky to get out of that situation, because that's a dangerous situation to be in when your opponent counters you and you don't even have anyone in midfield. So that position needs to be filled. And if he can add that discipline to his game, I think it's brilliant. Gilmour also has the advantages over Jorginho that he seems to be much better at tackling. He's Scottish, so obviously he's better at tackling than the Brazilian that grew up in Italy. Obviously, he's better at that. If I have to say it like that, but it comes into it. It plays a role, the discipline, the leadership, and I'm sure Gilmour can also develop into a proper leader as well. But his tackling is a big advantage. His pace is a big advantage. His ability to dribble is a big advantage. But as for right now, I think it's all about form for who starts between the 2, basically. We see when Jorginho comes back, how does he do? Because, Jorginho has been absolutely brilliant at times this season. And at that point, I wouldn't have said drop him for anybody, because I thought he was one of our best players at times. Struggled a bit more recently, but let's also not ignore that ever since the Arsenal away game, which was the last game in December, since that game, he has started every single game until the Liverpool game in the FA Cup. And even in that game away at Arsenal, he came on after less than half an hour, because obviously Lampard made the formation change. Any player, if starting all of these games in a row, and for most of those he played the full 90 as well, would be tired. So, a bit of a drop-off in form is totally understandable, but because of the midfield injuries that we had, and Lampard not just being willing to put Billy Gilmour in while Jorginho was still there, and Kovacic was fit and everything, Jorginho had to play. There was no other option, and he was running his socks off, especially when he was forced to play in the midfield too, in a 3-4-3 formation, which is just absolute, it's basically like sacrificing him. It's basically sacrificing him, and it has kind of worked, because so many fans turned on him again. The similar problems like we had last season. Okay, it hasn't come to booing in the ground yet, thankfully, because people appreciate him more. But, people need to stop, because that's all on Lampard. For Jorginho, 9 times out of 10 performing so badly in the last couple of weeks is because of the bad formation. You should know as a manager, don't play him in that formation. Every player has their weaknesses, every player has their strengths. You're not going to do that. If we play Giroud up front, we're not constantly going to play deep, steep and fast through balls for him to run at. No. That's what we do when we have Tammy, who has a lot more pace. You adjust to who you have in your team. Could you make an argument that maybe he shouldn't have started Jorginho? Maybe so. That's, each to their own. Everyone has their own opinion on that. But once he decides to start him, don't start him in a position that just sacrifices him and just brings out the worst in him, but doesn't let him show what he's really, really good at. Because Jorginho is very, very good at a lot of things. Very, very good at a lot of things. But like I said, as for next season, depending on how Billy Gilmour develops, and obviously what happens with Jorginho anyways, does he stay, does he leave? As for right now, like I said, it's about the form. But then at times when Kovacic needs a rest, when Kante's still out, or when Kante's back and also needs a rest, you can also start both Jorginho and Gilmour, in the same team. Like, Gilmour is also more than capable of playing in the number 8 position. They can play together in a double pivot of a 4-2-3-1 formation. It's more than possible to play them together. But in my ideal 4-3-3 formation with Ruben and Kovacic are two of the other guaranteed starters, and then there's only one spot left. That's kind of between Jorginho and Billy Gilmour. And it's a difficult one. We'll have to wait and see how Jorginho develops, how Billy Gilmour develops. But from what I've seen from Billy, and from what we've seen from Jorginho, I think Billy has the potential to be a much better player overall. But guys, I'm going to leave it here. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really, really do appreciate it. Again, my apologies for not, uploading on this channel more. It's just, busy times, and, we have other things to do in life. And obviously I do make plenty of videos on the Blues TV channel, Blues Fans TV, pardon me. And of course, if you haven't subscribed to that, how are you here, basically? But if you haven't, go over to subscribe to that. Subscribe to my channel as well. That'd be massively appreciated. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Leave me your thoughts on the whole situation down in the comments section below. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching. Up the Chelsea, and I'll see you when I see you.